11.2 Parabolas. In chapter 9, we look at the parabolas that are opening upward, opening downwards, and then some of the properties, which is the formula to find out the vertex. So those are called vertical parabolas. In this sections, we're going to review the vertical parabolas and also we learn the sideway parabolas, which is horizontal parabolas, opening left or right. So let's review a little bit on a vertical parabolas. If parabola is a vertical, that will be y is equal to x squared format. And of course, since this is a quadratic equations, it will be ax squared plus bx plus c. So we call this in general form. And the standard form is basically, which is also known as a vertex form. You can clearly see what is your vertex h and k right away. So in the general form, to find out the vertex, we use the formula, which is the x coordinate of the vertex will be b divided by 2a. And then once you get x, you can substitute that x into the equation to get your y value. But for the standard form, you already know what is your vertex right away. And in vertical parabola, the axis of symmetries are a vertical line. So therefore, we need to write it down. X is equal to h, which is the x coordinate of the vertex. And then we can clearly know the parabola is going to be opening upward or downwards by looking at the leading coefficient a is a positive or the leading coefficient a is a negative. So if it is a positive leading coefficient, it will be opening upward. And then if the leading coefficient is negative, then it will be opening downwards. So let's take a look at example 1 to review this vertical parabolas. So notice that the equation is y equal to negative x squared plus 5x minus 6. So that negative sign all the way in the front of x squared, the leading coefficients, tell us the parabola is going to be opening downward already. So I can predict that in ahead. But anyway, let's follow what the question is asking. Okay, so let's ask you to find the vertex because only if you once you get the vertex, a lot of things can be done, which is like part 2, part 3, those can be like easily written after you get the vertex. So to find out the vertex, 1, the x coordinate of the vertex, that is with the formula which is minus b over 2a. In this case, my b is negative minus my b is 5. 2 times my a is negative 1, so therefore I will get 5 over 2. In order to get the y value, all I have to do is substitute this 5 over 2 into the equations. So that means negative 5 over 2 squared plus 5 times 5 over 2 and then minus 6. You can use a calculator to compute this to make it fast, right? So punch it into calculator and then try to calculate it to see if we got the same answer or not. So the answer that I got is 1 over 4. So therefore, now I can tell that my vertex will be 5 divided by 5 over 2 and 1 over 4 is my vertex. Once we get the vertex, it easily can be talked about the axis of symmetry. Since this parabola is opening upward or downward, the vertical parabola, my axis of symmetry will be x equal to the x coordinate of the vertex, which is 5 over 2. That's my axis of symmetry. Let me write it down like this, so that way you have a notes like nice and neat and clear. So let me title everything so that you can see it. So axis of symmetry, that will be x equal to h, which is the x coordinate of the vertex. That will be 5 over 2. Now, what we're going to do is the third part, we're going to write it into a standard form. The standard form is basically, um, talking about y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k format. So that is basically y equal to my a in this case is -1, x minus my x coordinate of vertex is 5 over 2 square, and my k is plus 1 over 4, and that is my standard form. Now we're going to find out the x-intercept and y-intercept. So to find out the intercept, okay, so x-intercept, we're going to let y be equal to 0. Those part you cannot forget. So that will become, my equation will become 0 is equal to negative x squared plus 5x minus 6. Divide both sides by -1, or you can factor out the negative, so that will become negative x squared minus 5x plus 6. Continue factoring out, that will become x minus 2 and then x minus 3. So which give me, according to the zero factor property, I can say that x minus 2 is equal to 0, and then x minus 3 is equal to 0, which gives me x is equal to 2 and then x is equal to 3. Don't forget we are looking for intercepts, so therefore right away you want to write it in order pair 2, 0, and then the other one will be 3, 0. So we got two x-intercept. And lastly, finding out the y-intercept. Right? The y-intercept, let x be equal to 0. So that means y is equal to, substitute into the equations x0, that will become plus 5 times 0 minus 6. So therefore, I got my y as -6. So write it down in a order pair format, which is going to be 0, -6. Now we have enough points to graph this. First, you're going to plug in vertex. Then you're going to use these intercept points as other points to get your sketch of the graph. So finally, sketching it, part 5. My vertex is 5 over 2, that is 2.5. So my x is 2.5 and my y is 1/4, so it will be approximately right there. That's my vertex. We already know it will be opening downwards, right? So, and the I put the plot wrong right here. Okay, so let's replot again. So 2.5 and then the 1/4 right there, and then my x-intercept is at 2 and then 3, and then my y-intercept will be -6, which is right here. So you will be able to graph better because, like, my mark, my pen is not really good. So this helped me to get opening downward with all my intercepts and stuff. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do almost the same thing because of the sideway left and right. Some formula part will be changing. So let's take a look at on horizontal parabola. Now, horizontal parabola, the way that you recognize is your x is equal to y squared. Okay, the other way around. Everything inside will be reversed. So that is the general form. X is equal to ay squared plus by equal to c. And the standard format become x is equal to a times y minus k, right? Before it was x minus h, now y minus k and h. So the vertex of the standard format, it doesn't change. Your vertex will be just h and k, right? But the order is like changes, so you have to be careful. So for the general format to get the vertex, first you need to find out the y coordinate instead of x coordinate. So that will become y is b divided by 2a and then negative in front of it. That will be your y coordinate of the vertex. And then if you want the x coordinate, all you have to do is substitute y into equation like before, and then you will get that. Since this time the parabola is sideways, the axis of symmetry will become a horizontal line. So it will be y is equal to the y coordinate of the vertex. Okay. And it will tell you if your a is greater than 0, positive number, then it will be open right. If your a, the leading coefficient, is a negative number, which is less than 0, that will be opening leftward. So similarly in the standard format, those are. So now let's try to use these to do example number 2. It is given to you x equal to negative y squared. So notice that x is equal to y squared now. So that tells me my parabolas will be horizontal, is either opening left or opening right. Since the leading coefficient, my a is negative 1 in this case, it will be opening leftward. So that's what we can predict so far. Now, let's find out vertex, because as in vertical parabola, once you got the vertex, part 2 axis of symmetry, part 3 writing in standard form, those follow up nice and easily. So, 1, let's talk about the vertex. Okay. So the vertex, at this time you have to be careful because the formula is representing for your y coordinates, which is minus b over 2a now. So in this case, it will be negative 4 over 2 times negative 1, which is going to be negative 2. In order to get the x coordinate of the vertex, now what we do is we substitute into the equations for this y value. So negative 2 to the second power minus 4 times negative 2 plus 12. So using your calculator, this should easily help you to compute, right? So pause it and then try to punch it into your calculator and see we got the same answer or not. So that will give me 16. Okay, so you can quickly check that, right? So my order pair, the vertex, remember the order pair is always x then y, so that must be 16 comma negative 2. That part doesn't change. All right. So from here, now I can talk about my axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry, that is basically the y horizontal line, so that will be y is equal to the y coordinate of the vertex, which is going to be negative 2 in this case. And then we want to write it into a standard form, which is the standard form. The standard form is basically x is equal to, this time, x is equal to a times y minus k squared plus h. So that is x is equal to my a is negative 1, y minus my k is negative 2 squared plus h 16. So therefore x is equal to negative y plus 2 squared plus 16. Finally, let's find out the intercepts. So as before, if you want the x-intercept, let y be equal to 0. So for x-intercept, let y be equal to 0. So that tells me x is equal to minus 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 12. Plug it into the formula equation. So that'll give me 12. So therefore my x-intercept will be 12, 0. Now, finding out the y-intercept, we let x be equal to 0. So that means 0 is equal to negative y squared minus 4y plus 12. like before, solving quadratic equations, so factor the negative out, so y squared plus 4y minus 12, and then continue factoring out, which will give me y minus 2 and then y plus 6. So using the zero factor property, I can say that y minus 2 is equal to 0, y plus 6 is equal to 0, which will be y is equal to 2 and y is equal to negative 6. Don't forget, these are intercept points, so I'm going to write it right away in order pair 0, 2, and then 0, negative 6. Now we have the vertex and then intercept point that will allow me to graph a lot faster. So it will be out of the chart right here because I only give you up to 10, so we're gonna have to graph this. So my vertex is 16 and negative 2, so it will be way out here. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, negative 2, which is way out. Oh, sorry. It is not very neat. So let me extend this. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 negative 2 is going to be around here. And then I'm going to plug it in my y-intercept 0, 2. And the y-intercept 0, negative 6. And my x-intercept is 12, 0. So it'll be right here, 12, 0. So that will help me to graph my parabola, which is what? Opening to the left, right? As I mentioned it, opening to the left, like this. So you probably can graph better than me. And notice that there is a horizontal asymptote that y equal to negative 2, so which is exactly in the middle. Okay, horizontal axis, right? Axis of symmetry. Good. All right, let's continue on the next example, so that at least we have two examples and on this, and then we do better. Again, all right. So this time I I pay attention to x equal to y squared, so that tells me the parabola is going to be opening left or right. Because of my leading coefficient a is positive number, it will be opening to the right. So finding out the vertex is important. So let's find the vertex first. So my vertex, the y coordinate of the vertex will be equal to negative b divided by 2a, which in this case will be negative 6 over 2 times 3, which gives me negative 1. And that helped me to find out my x coordinates, which is substituting this y into equation. That will be 3 times negative 1 squared plus 6 times negative 1 plus 7. Now use your calculator and it will help you to get the right answer, which is 10 minus 6 is 4. So I got my vertex, x coordinate is 4, my y coordinate is negative 1. So make sure you write it in order pair correctly. Since this parabola is opening right, the horizontal parabola, the axis of symmetry is a horizontal line. So my axis of symmetry in this case is basically y is equal to the y coordinate of the vertex, negative 1. Now I can write down my standard form, which is x is equal to, right? X is equal to a times x y minus k, right? Y minus k squared plus h. So that will be x is equal to my a is 3 in the general format. Y minus my k is negative 1 squared plus my h is 4. So that will give me x is equal to 3y plus 1 squared plus 4. So now that I got my standard form already, and then let's find out the intercepts. Okay, didn't write it well. So intercept. So the x-intercept, as usual, let y be equal to, right? Let y be equal to 0. And then you plug it into the equation to find out what is the intercept. X-intercept, let y be equal to 0. So that means x is equal to 3 times 0 squared plus 6 times 0 plus 7, which you can see that it will be 7. Right away, write it down in order pair, which is 7, 0. That's my x-intercept. Now let's find out the y-intercept. We let x be equal to 0. So that will become 0 is equal to 3y squared plus 6y plus 7. And when you try to find out this is factorable or not, you will see that it's not factorable. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use, like before, if it is not factorable, we use quadratic formula. So minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So this gives me negative 6 plus or minus square root of 36 minus 21 times 4 is 84 over 6. And you can see that this will be negative 6 plus or minus square root of 84 take away 36. That will give me negative 48 over 6. Now, this is basically complex number, right? So that basically tells me there is no y-intercept. Okay, there is no y-intercept. So in this case, we only have the vertex and we only have the x-intercept. So let's try to graph this. Okay, my vertex is 4, negative 1. So 4, negative 1, which is right here, the vertex. And we know that the parabola is opening to the right, and the x-intercept is 7, 0. So 7, 0, which is right here. And using the symmetrical idea that we talked about before, see, from the vertex to that point is go up 1 and to the right 3 units. So it will be go down 1 and to the right 3 units. That will be another point right there. So that's how I can quickly sketch this graph using the symmetrical idea. And this concludes this sections.